Hello, my name is David Ward, and I'd like to welcome you to the third Johnny Blender series. This may be the last one, I'm not for sure. I seem to keep learning new things that I'd like to share in these ongoing series. But anyways, this Johnny Blender 3.0, or just 3, I guess, it's going to have a little bit different style. In the first Johnny Blender, it was sort of a moderately realistic kind of look with sort of a cartoonish feel. The second one obviously was trying to go for photorealism, and this one is a little comp I've came up with, a little character sketch. As you can see, it's just going to be a real cartoonish superhero type of guy. I'm going to try to put a cape in there with the cloth simulator and things like that. I might have to play with it a little bit first, but we'll see what we can get. There. But anyways, just a basic superhero. You know, we might give him an alias. You know, his secret identity or whatever. But anyways, the finished result should look something similar to this. So that's that. Okay, before we get started, let me go ahead and show you what my computer specs are here. I'm using Windows 7. Intel Core 2 Quad CPU. My computer is actually a Dell XPS 410. I've had it quite a few years, but I've upgraded it over these years. So anyways, I have like I said, the quad CPU in there. 4 gigs of RAM there, and 3.0 is usable. And 32-bit operating system. So anyways, that's basically what I've got. And then obviously we're using right now the latest version of Blender, which right now is 2.57B. So maybe by the time you actually get to watch this video, it will have some more upgrades to it. But anyways, all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. One thing I like to do when you open up a fresh copy of Blender, when you downloaded it, blender.org, you just go to File, User Preferences, and it brings up this guy over here. And I like to actually go to Input there and emulate 3-button mouse. For me, that makes it a lot easier. You don't have to do this, but for me it helps. So anyways, also have a little script running here that should show you my keyboard shortcuts here. Make sure that's going. Should be graphic. There we go. Okay. Okay, so now if I hold down Alt and left click with my mouse, as you can see in the little diagram of the mouse here, make that a little bit bigger actually. There we go. Holding down Alt and left clicking is pretty much the same as just pushing your middle mouse wheel if you have a 3-button mouse. So that's what the emulate 3-button mouse was for, so you don't actually need a 3-button, but it certainly helps out. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in here and start modeling. I hit numpad 1, as you can obviously see. That will be handy. I'll be able to save some time, not have to actually go over all of the keyboard shortcuts verbally. So, okay, I'm going to tab into edit mode here. W, subdivide, and let's do that a couple of times. There, give it 3 cuts there. And I'm just going to hit A to deselect everything, and then B to bring up my crosshairs, and just click and drag over that and just delete those guys, the vertices. And another thing, when you first open Blender, the default setting is to have this limit selection to visible turned on, and that means you can only select what you can see. Like if we move it around here, you can see that there are vertices back here, but since I can't see them now, I can't select them. I can only select these. But I want to be able to select through there, kind of an X-ray view. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off. And now when I select all these, you can see it selected all of those. So I'll go ahead and hit delete. Okay, so now we have a half of a cube. And the reason I have a half of a cube is because when I start modeling a character, I only model half of it. And I use this modifier over here, which is under your little wrench there, a little crescent wrench. Go down to mirror, and you can see it automatically adds the other half. It mirrors your model here, so you only have to do half of the work. See? Okay. Another thing you need to do is turn on clipping. because if you let's turn it off. If you don't turn on clipping and you grab one of these central vertices there and you move it, well, it doesn't stay glued to the spot where you might want it. If you turn on clipping, it stays right there. No matter where you move it, it's going to stay right there. Okay, so let's go to the top view. Let's start shaping out the head. It's kind of a nice, just a basic head shape. Nothing too fancy. Got a nice strong jaw, you know, as most superheroes tend to have. You know, the first couple of Johnny Blender series, I was modeling after myself, and if you saw the reference photos for the realistic version of Johnny Blender, you know that I certainly do not have a strong, wide jaw like that, unfortunately. But I survived, so okay, I'm in top view right now, obviously, and if you didn't catch the keyboard shortcut here, that's the 7 key on your numpad. I'm going to go to side view now, and just kind of clean this up, and I select all this, scale it on the y-axis. There we go, and then just bring the back of the head area up here. One other thing, one trick we can use to make modeling things like this a little easier, a little faster, is called proportional editing. So let's turn this on, and I usually just use connected, because if you use enable, well, right now it doesn't really matter, but if you just turn it on and enable, then you could have, you know, say his body down here, and you move this piece on the head. Well, if you just have this turned on, it also moves the vertices of the body. But I don't want to move the vertices of the body, I just want to use the head, so I just go connected, and that just moves any vertices that are connected in the same mesh. So, like I said, right now it doesn't really matter because this is the only mesh right here. But so as you can see, it's sort of a gradial selection, and it helps get a nice smooth, you know, shape as you're dragging the vertices around. Okay, so that's looking pretty decent. Let's go ahead and tab back out of edit mode. And one thing that I like to turn off is, see this grid floor here, it's kind of cutting through the head, and you see this green line and this red line. Well, for me, that gets a little distracting, so I like to turn it off. And you just go over here, if you don't have this panel here open, you just hit in, and it's your properties panel. So you just hit in, and it opens it up. Or you can just go view properties right there, and it turns it on and off, same button. Okay, so to get rid of that grid floor, I come down here to display, I turn off grid floor, and then to get rid of the green and red lines, just turn off X and Y, and there we go. You know, I'm going to go ahead and save this while I'm at it. Save as, and I'm going to my G drive, Blender Files, JB3, and we'll just name this JB underscore 01. Actually, just put a 3 there. JB3 underscore 01. I like to give incremental savings as I'm going. You don't have to do that, but that's just my personal preference. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Okay, so we have our basic head shape here, but it's very angular. You can see all the angles in the planes and everything of the polygons. You don't want that. You want it to be smooth and creamy. So let's go to right over here. This is our tool box, basically, tool panel, and just turn the shading to smooth. And that smooths it out well enough, but you can see some artifacts here which are very visible on low polygon models, which is what this is low polygon. So a way to smooth those out and get it looking nice is to add another modifier to it. So let's go right here and add a Subdivision Surface. And there you go. It makes it nice and smooth without the artifacts from the low polygon. You can also bump it up right there. 2 renditions of the subdivisions on the subsurf modifier. So, okay, so we can see now that it's starting to take shape. So let's jump in here and let's start trying to detail it out just a little bit better. Not necessarily detail, but kind of get it shaped a little bit closer to what I'm wanting to do. Now, to select all these vertices, I'm hitting B, which brings up a crosshairs, and then click and drag, and it selects them. You can also do a couple of other things to select vertices. Let's hit A to deselect everything. You can hold Control B, or just hold down Control, and it brings up like a lasso tool that you can just draw around the vertices that you want to select, and it'll select them like that. So just A again to clear those out. Or you can also use the C button, which kind of brings up sort of a paint selection, so you can just paint over the ones that you want to select like that. So top view, I just want to select these guys, round this face out just a little bit better. Bring these guys out some as well. Bring this square angle here in a little bit. Okay, going pretty well, I think. I've noticed I get a little bit of a lag, I guess because one, I'm recording video as I'm working in a graphics program, but two, my subdivisions are set to 2, and that's good for rendering, but when you're just modeling, a view of 1 is perfectly fine. And the higher polygon your model gets, you can even just go down to 0 and just work, you know, with the raw model basically, but 1 should be fine for now. Another thing you can do, if you'd like to see the smoothness applied to your raw mesh as well, you can turn on this little guy right here, so it applies the modifier during editing, which is what we're in right now. So kind of gives you a better feel of how it's outlined and everything. So okay, let's start working on some of the features. One of the first things I like to do is the mouth and nose area. So let's grab our polygon, or our face select tool here, and let's grab these guys right here. And actually want to scale those on the Z-axis to get them a little taller. Then we'll just go ahead and bring them up. And also, when you're using the proportional editing, you can scroll your mouse wheel up and down to adjust the influence that it has. Or you can also hit page up and page down if you don't have a wheeled mouse. Okay, so that'll be about good right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit E to extrude, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the proportional editing. So that's Alt-0, or excuse me, Alt-O, because I don't want to scale anything else. I just want to scale what I'm working with here. I'm going to drag this way down, and this is actually going to be the mouth opening. Scale that on the x-axis a little bit. Scale it down, and let's grab the vertex select and grab these 3 guys and move this over and just kind of start rounding this out. Okay, now what we're going to do is add some more loops around the mouth area that we're also going to be using to create the nose and everything. I think I might have done the same technique in the Johnny Blender 2. So if you haven't seen that, you might check it out. I'd like to think it's worth a look. Okay, now we'll just kind of start sculpting the mouth area in here. Let's go ahead and grab these guys, and we're going to extrude them inwards, about like so, just once, and then hit E again to extrude again. And maybe we're going to start scaling it on the Z-axis. Let's get a little bit more. Oops. There we go. And extrude back a little bit further. Okay, so now we got an inside of the mouth. Let's go ahead and bring the outer edge of the mouth opening. We don't really have lips yet, so I don't want to say lips because we're getting ready to create those. Let's drag those down. You know what? The editing mode version of your subsurf is handy at times, but it can also get a little distracting as it kind of reshapes the way the mesh is laid out. I mean, like right here we have this. I could be moving these down, and it's not really moving the way I want, so I don't know if that makes sense to you. It makes sense in my head, but let's go ahead and turn that off for now. And let's kind of shape this outside of the mouth here. We'll kind of taper this area, if that makes sense. And let's go ahead and grab the edge select, and if you hold down Alt and Control at the same time. Let's go to A to clear that out. Alt and Control, and then right click on one of these edges. It'll select all of those in that path, like that. So now we can go ahead and select the vertex selected, and we'll go ahead and select all those guys. Now I want to extrude out just a little bit. I'm going to scale it down on the Z-axis. Okay, scale it down on the X-axis a little bit. And now we're just going to bring it forward. Use that green axis on your little gizmo controller there. And you can turn that if you like. If you want to rotate something, you can just turn it to this, and then you can rotate like that. Control Z obviously undoes, just like most other software programs. This little button right here is to scale it up and down. If you don't like keyboard shortcuts, you can use these. I like to stay in the translate, which is basically the same as move. Changing the location, you're translating from one area to another. And I'm just going to start kind of reshaping our lips out here. And one way you can, let's go ahead and turn that proportional editing back on, back to connected. One way you can help make a mouth look good, like this doesn't look bad right now, but it definitely has a sort of a claymation feel, if you will. But we can kind of make this look a little bit better by grabbing the corners of the mouth and decrease our influence of our proportional fall off. And let's drag that in. Then we'll grab these cheeks areas and drag that out. So you can see it's starting to look a little bit more like a normal mouth. I know it's a cartoon version, but some of the same rules apply. Okay. Okay. Now, one more thing to do on the lips before we move on is let's Control R and just put a loop right in the middle there. That adds a loop. When you hit Control R, you see that pink line. You're like, oh no, what is that? Well, it's fine. It's adding a loop, and then once you click, it creates the loop, and then you move your mouse and you can drag it, as you saw me drag it accidentally all the way to the top. But if you do that and you release and you're like, oh no, I messed up, got to undo. No, you don't have to undo. You can Control E, it'll bring up your edges, and you can edge slide, and then you can move it wherever you want, like that. So let's move it about right there. And then I'm going to Alt S, and that's going to scale along the vertices normals. So it doesn't scale it based on its actual size. It kind of does it, each vertex scaling towards, I don't know, the center of the model. I'm not exactly sure what that goes to. But anyways, so we have some nice round lips now. So let's see what that looks like with the two subdivisions. That's looking pretty decent, I think. Of course, it'll look a lot better once we get the nose and eyes and everything on there. But let's go ahead and drop that back down to 1. And let's tab back in edit mode and go ahead and add a nose for a little guy there. Don't think I had a nose in the concept, sort of with the mask and everything, but we'll give him a nose. So I just got these polygons selected. Go ahead and extrude those out, like so. And then we'll reshape it a little bit by just grabbing the vertices. Just kind of push and pull until it starts looking the way you want. And the lovely part about having this as part of the mouth area, when we extruded from the face there, we use that whole bottom half, is when you go ahead and add more loops, like so. And let's put one right here, and let's go ahead and put one right there. You start adding more loops, you can make things like, smile lines and wrinkles and things like that. So let's put one right there. Let's grab that guy and move it back, and then move this forward. And they line up with the edges of the nose, like they should. So So let's get this nose looking a little bit better. Side view and resculpt this some. Now, I said resculpt this some. That reminded me, if you watched Johnny Blender 2, you might have noticed that sometimes when I'm sculpting, or when I'm first creating my model, I like to go into Sculpt Mode and use the Grab tool and the Smooth tool to kind of, you know, subsidize, or, you know, help out my normal technique, which is like I'm doing right now. However, in the later versions of Blender 2.5, they've changed the Sculpt Mode to only really work when you have like a subsert or a multi-resolution modifier. You can't really use it like I was using it before. You can't really do that anymore. So that's kind of a bummer, but you know, you work around it, learn new ways to do stuff. So okay, so we're almost good on the nose general shape. Let's go ahead and give him some nostrils, just some little ones. Go ahead and select, I guess let's go ahead and select both of those, but now we're going to have to turn off the clipping over here on the mirror. Let's go ahead and turn that off, and we'll go ahead and extrude and just make it go up there, move it up, and then we'll scale it down. Actually, let's Alt-A. You know what? Alt-O, we need to turn that proportional fall off right now. And you know what? I'm going to undo a couple of things. Let's go back there and let's just extrude this one in right here. So let's extrude that, scale it down, kind of move it over there, and we'll Control R to put a loop there. And there we go. Okay, so it's starting to look pretty decent, I think. Kind of looking like something from DreamWorks, maybe. Let's grab these guys, move them over. Sometimes I accidentally hit the wrong button. Let's turn that clipping back on. There we go. Okay, so let's pop the subdivisions back to 2 and see, it's kind of starting to look pretty decent. We certainly need to work on those nostrils a little bit more. But I like to try to keep each episode around 20 minutes, and I can see my timer says it's been 22 minutes and 45 seconds. So let's go ahead and save this as part 1, and I'll see you in part 2. Thanks for watching.